Hello, loves. It's Britt, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what it means to have your natal moon in Gemini. I did a poll. This was the one you guys wanted the most first. I'm going to go through all the moon signs, so that's exciting. And this moon sign, I have a unique experience of. It was my late husband, so my partner in spirit, who I did live with, had this moon. So I have that experience of living with someone that had this one. So what is the moon sign? The moon sign is our deepest emotional part of ourselves. It says a lot about our habitual emotional patterns, our internal world, our inner self, but quite often we actually feel a lot more like our moon sign than even our sun sign, because the moon sign, it represents that inner part of us, our feelings, how we feel, and in some senses our inner feminine or our inner child. It can show a lot about our childhood and how we experience that, and our upbringing, and as well as for men, it can show their wife, or their image of the wife can be shown by the moon. Whereas in women, it more just shows how they emotionally are. And men too, although men can sometimes project this onto a woman. So that's a bit about what the moon sign actually is. So it's this very deep part of ourselves. Now, Gemini is a very unemotional sign. Not to say these people aren't emotional, but all of their emotions are filtered through their intellect and through their mind. So these people spend a lot of time thinking about how they're feeling, and so they can be overthinkers. They can have a lot of mental tension, and they're very perceptive. They're very aware of their environment. Like, they don't easily tune things out. They're very open to whatever is going on in their environment, and they're very quick to respond to whatever is going on. So they can be quite high strung, and you want to look at the aspects to the moon here too, because a Gemini moon in difficult aspect with Saturn or Mercury is going to show like more negative thinking, and maybe even like a sometimes paranoia, or mental health challenges, because this is a very mental moon. So the moon, I mean, it's not necessarily a difficult position, but it's just when our emotions are coming through the sign of Gemini, we're just a little bit all over the place, and it can be difficult if those aspects are difficult. But usually these are really fun people. They're very curious and childlike, and their instinctual response to situations and like their inner feelings about situations is usually not like it's not calculated. It's not it's very spontaneous. They can be very spontaneous. They can be very, yeah, like childlike is the word. Like they are always they're always asking why. Why this? Oh, why are you like this? Or why are you like that? Or they, like, my late husband, he was always asking me questions. That was the one thing I liked about him. It was like I was constantly being interviewed. Which my Leo moon just loved it. I felt like a celebrity. This Gemini moon man, he just never stopped talking, and he's always talking about me, and he's asking me all these questions about my life and this and that, and what are you doing now, and oh, what video are you gonna do today, or what are you gonna talk about today, and like they're very curious people, right? And they can talk a lot, and they actually need to talk a lot. So the moon sign also shows what we emotionally need to feel secure and to feel safe, and our feeling of like inner happiness, right? So the people with the moon in Gemini, they need to talk about their feelings, and sometimes they talk more about their feelings than they actually spend feeling their feelings. And you'll have to look at the whole chart to see like how emotional they actually are. But I have seen with this placement, like if you've got a sun and moon in Gemini, or like a double air sign influence or something, like, so you've got two unemotional signs, you've got two air signs. These people can be, they're like the intellectuals, and they almost like have no idea what they're feeling at all. And they're so disconnected from their feelings because they just mentalize everything. And so that can be shown with this, but not always, but they do need to talk about everything. They talk a lot. And even if we have Mercury in a more sensitive or introverted sign, you're still going to find people with the moon in Gemini being quite communicative, and they just, oh my god, they never stop talking. And I mean, if it's in the 12th house or something, maybe that's not true, but I just have noticed with this placement, it is a very extroverted placement. So we've got the moon, which is our inner self, being in the sign of Gemini, which is so curious and so, wanting to know about everything, wanting to talk to everyone. They're not going to be like a snobby kind of person when we have the moon in Gemini, okay? They're very open to situations and people, and pretty open-minded. I mean, yeah, they're not like a more arrogant, or it's a very what's the word, like an innocence and a purity with this moon, where they're just fun, talkative, curious, childlike people who sometimes are not very in tune with their inner world when we have the moon coming through this more extroverted sign of Gemini. Now, they can be very intelligent because they're very quick, right? And their perceptions are like instantaneous. So they can notice things about their environment and about people like that other people aren't noticing, right? Like I said with my late husband, he's always, talking to me about things. He would notice things about me that I wasn't aware of, right? He was very perceptive. And so they have that ability to like see to the heart of a situation and intellectually know what's going on with it. And so they can be very brilliant. And I know this is moon and not Mercury, but it still seems to come out this way that, because this is like moon and Mercury sign, their natural way of being is very perceptive, and it can be brilliant. Not necessarily, you'd have to look at the whole chart to see like where their intelligence lies and where their giftedness is, but there's something about this person that they can have a very different way of seeing things, and they can be very mentally quite on all the time, right? So they're going to notice things, and sometimes they're going to have mental burnout because it's very hard for them to shut the mind off. So they need to have some quiet time every day. They need to develop some kind of practice to actually calm those nerves, because they're nervous. They're high strung with this placement, and so any type of relaxation, or even just I would never recommend like TV for people, because it's like, why would I? But like the moon in Gemini, it's like they need that escape sometimes. They need to just like watch a show or watch a movie or like read a book, or they need something like in a quiet, dark room, just away from all the stimulus, right? For their sanity, because they just pick up everything. And yeah, so that's important to have some kind of quiet time. And emotionally, they do need to change their surroundings. They like to be out and about. Like they like to go for short trips and, go walk to the park and go out for lunch and be around different types of people and go on vacation and do, like, they need to move around a lot. And that's something that they'll naturally do, but that's something that they need, is some variety. Like the absolute death of them would be for them to have a life that feels boring, or it feels monotonous. They will feel very depressed if their life starts to feel like that. So they need, variety. Variety is the spice of life for them. That's something that they emotionally need, as well as they have that need to talk it out. And when they are emotional, they will need to express that and talk about it with their partner. So if you're in a relationship with them, you always have to be an ear. You have to be able to talk with them. That would also be the death of them, is like if they were with someone that they felt like they couldn't talk to or they couldn't reason with, right? They need someone who they can have that communication with. So communication is very, very important with these people, because that is what they emotionally need. And so for men with this placement, they are sort of like, the image of like the more toxic masculine. They can be that man that is like, what's the word? Emotionally unavailable because they're just not always in tune with their emotions, and they need that variety. They need, sometimes they need lots of different stimulants. It could show up in the man that is like the perpetual bachelor, but when he does find his true soulmate, because the other thing about Gemini energy is that even though they're flirts and they can have many relationships, they do ultimately believe that they have one soulmate, right? The twins, the other half. So for him to really feel emotionally connected with a woman, it has to be a woman who is his mental companion and someone who he can talk to, someone who he can joke around with, someone who is light and funny and talkative herself, right? Like maybe she has some Gemini placements and they can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And so in a marriage with this type of man, he's going to be needing that talk and talk and talk and talk more than like the intense emotional exchanges and passion and but depending on the rest of his chart, but that the Gemini Moon man needs that more. He needs the fun, lighthearted third house, short travels and talking about basically meaningless stuff. That's what he needs. And sometimes meaningful stuff. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes he needs to talk about meaningful stuff too, but a lot of the times it's just a lot of talk about, hey, look at that bird outside, or, oh, look at that show that's on, or, wow, I like your hair today. And I just, talking about whatever they're perceiving, right? And that's a problem with Gemini Moon people, is that sometimes they can talk so much and never say anything meaningful and actually avoid the meaningful conversations, right? That would be a lower manifestation of this. But the higher side is that they have an ability to lightheartedly talk about those emotional things, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about Gemini Moon. And as with, the mutable signs, they can be hard to talk about because, well, the last thing I'll say before I end this video, because now it's coming to me again, is like, there's many different potentials for people that have Gemini Moon, because they can put on a different personality any day they want. They can fit in anywhere. So they're kind of like a chameleon. Now, of course, that can be a negative thing where we have someone who is all things to all people. So they can not have a strong sense of self at times. Like when we have like Moon in a fixed sign, this, emotionally, these people are stubborn and they don't change their mind, and they, know who they are on some deep level, right? But with the Gemini Moon, it's like they sometimes don't quite know who they are, because they can be one person when they're with one person, but then they can easily be another person when they're with another person. And you know what? Both of those versions are them. So the person with Gemini Moon needs to actually focus on, maybe some other aspects of themselves too. Like, what is the sun? What is your sun, right? What's your sun sign? Like, what are some of the other, what's your rising sign? What's your Mercury sign? Like, is there some fixed sign? Is there some other energy? Like, who is your real soul self, right? These are questions to ask yourself if you're Gemini Moon, or to think about if you're dating or, relating with someone who's a Gemini Moon, is that they might not always have a strong sense of who they are, right? And they have those chameleon-like tendencies. So to avoid being all things to all people and not really, being a strong, like, solid person, because you're kind of confused about who you are, it's a good idea to gain clarity on, like, okay, well, who am I actually, right? Like, what do I actually feel, right? What do I actually gain emotional satisfaction from? Because that can be something that is elusive to them. Like, where do they actually feel the best, right? And they're probably going to find that it's, when they're being social, and when they're being curious, when they're learning, when they're having these fun, lighthearted, funny exchanges, but they need to really figure that out for themselves, because, yeah, there can be that tendency to just kind of be anything, right? Another thing that I'll say is, like, they can be very funny, very funny, very fun to be around. Like, you never quite know what you're gonna get with a Gemini Moon person. Like, are they gonna be completely hilarious today? Or are they going to be, a different version of themselves, more serious version? You just never know what you're going to get with these people. They're very fun. They're very exciting. And they're usually, sometimes lacking in that sense of solidness. And you can see them kind of flittering around and not really, sometimes they don't accomplish, they don't have enough, like, solidity to really, like, figure out who they are and what they want to do, so they can be like drifters, but their gifts are sociability, openness, perceptiveness, hilariousness, and they're a lot of fun. They're the kind of people you want to have at your party, right? Because they just fit right in with everybody, and they're telling jokes, and they're the life of the party, right? And then, but, their inner self, they have a lot of inner tension, and they need that quiet time. They need time to just unwind and calm those nerves and that nervousness. But yeah, super fun people. Lots of love for them. And yeah, I hope this resonated. Let me know your experience of this moon. If it's your moon, you crazy ones. No, just kidding. I love you guys. I love you guys. My only ever long-term soulmate had this moon. So anyways, talk soon, you guys. I do offer one-on-one sessions. I do a personal natal chart reading, and then I also do a synastry relationship chart reading, where we sometimes go into the composite charts as well. We go super deep. So fun. I'll put my links there below, and I'll be doing more moon sign videos. I'm going to also finish up Chiron series. So yeah, I want to just, like, I'm seeing this vision on my YouTube, just having, like this catalog of astrology interpretations. It's just so fun for me to talk about. So anyways, love you guys. Thanks for being here, and love you, Gemini Moon people. You're so much fun. Okay, bye.